All right, boys and girls, good morning. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as I can so I don't use up all of your science time. But this is a video tutorial to help guide you through Wednesday, April 8th lesson. I thought we'd try an Explore Learning Gizmo remotely. I think we have done enough of them in the classroom throughout the year that you get the concept, and I believe how I have this one laid out, it should be just fine. I turned basically with the sheets that we would normally have on our desks at our tables, I've turned that into a Google document and put in some features, including video links to help you along. And I think we can give it a run. I don't want you to stress about this. I want it to be exploratory and for you to have fun. The points that I am going to be taking off it, I think, are pretty easy to come by. Some base simple things, and this is not intended at all to stress anyone out. And I want us to be able to get through it together. I'll be available at 1 o'clock on Wednesday and 1 o'clock on Thursday for a Google Meets that I will send out an invite for in case you need to meet with me, jump on and ask a question. I can share my screen, etc. So anyway, I'm just going to start through on our Wednesday science page here. Basically, we have the learning targets, and we're going to be talking about Explore Learning Gizmo that has to do with a trebuchet. It's a fancy word, probably a French word for something that launches projectiles at a castle. And you're going to learn some words like counterweights and beams and slings and projectiles and fulcrum and things like that. It's a physics lesson. And we want to investigate how the dimensions of these parts of the trebuchet, once changed, can affect the working of the trebuchet and the distance that the projectile will travel. So it's like a science experiment in the fact that it has variables that we can adjust. For your action step one, you're basically have to access your Explore Learning Gizmo account. And I have the web page there. If you don't know your username and password or your computer doesn't remember it, just email me right away and I'll get that to you. Action step two, I have a Google Classroom document titled Trebuchet Gizmo Day 1. And once you're into that and have your Gizmo opened up, you will be able to have two tabs open at the top of your computer and just have to toggle back and forth between those. It's a little cumbersome, but you can do it. Keep in mind that throughout the day one and day two, because we'll be doing this on Thursday as well, there are video tutorials embedded within the documents along the whole way to help you out. I tried to be consistent in designing the assignments, which did take a long time. It's not as easy as just printing out the pieces of paper and putting them on your table. It took me about 4 hours to make the documents workable, and I hope it's worth our time. Anything that's in blue, I tried to stay consistent with that. That usually requires an answer if there's something in blue, and then I made text boxes as well, and I'll show you that in a minute. Again, at 1 p.m. I'll be available for a Google Meets. And then I just want to re-emphasize that this is a challenging lesson. There's no doubt about that. Anything worth doing is worth doing right. I want you to have fun with this material. No stress. Please don't stress about it. This is a physics activity, and I know we can learn from it together, and you can get some meaningful information out of it. I'm going to turn to the first page. When you open up the day one document, it's going to look like this. Here's the picture of a trebuchet over here, and the vocabulary words that we're going to be interacting with, and a link to those vocabulary word definitions. Got some prior knowledge questions you'll have to answer. When you do answer, try to keep the boxes about this same size, otherwise it might go down and mess up the flow of the document, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure that out. You're pretty good with technology. We have a Gizmo warm-up here. One thing I'll point out right away is you have a launch and you have a design. We'll be using a lot of the design features, and over here are the dimensions like the counterweight, the payload, which is basically your projectile, the fulcrum height, the short arm length, etc. So there's some things you're going to have to do first of all with the tools button to help you learn what these little red dots, what is this referencing? This is the fulcrum, this is the prong or the long arm, this is the prong up here, this is the counterweight, etc. So you're going to have to do some work there to put into the information on this Google drawing here. I use the Google drawing tool. We've used it for the Atoms HyperDoc, and we also used it in an activity with Mr. Ludwigsen. But basically, you're going to try to identify what each of these things are just by placing the letter of the definition or of the actual vocabulary word in there. Okay, and then when you're done, save and close that. And then as we move along here, um, there are here's a written part that you have to do, and try to be explanatory, descriptive in your writing, not one word answers here. That's not going to fly. Um, Watch the trebuchet in action. There's a little video too that goes along with it that you can click on somewhere up here. Way at the top, this little video here shows an actual one that some people built and are launching some stuff. And it's kind of fun to watch. You get a good sense of what they actually look like in real life. Um, but again, going through some of these things, again, video links along the way to help you out. But as always, pay attention to these top parts up here. Activity A, for instance, it has you set the dimensions as such. Be very careful that you set these dimensions just right. You set those dimensions in your design tab, okay? And then the information is just readily available to you. For instance, what is the initial angle of the launch? Okay, well, if you're on your trebuchet and you have all these parameters and then you do a launch test, it's going to fling this up, and basically it's going to tell you your launch angle right there. It's approximately 5 degrees, 4.96 degrees, and the initial speed was 31.05. So you put that information in here, the angle. What dimensions do you believe are going to have the biggest effect on the launch angle? That's just a guess on your part. Okay. And then getting into sling length is 5 meters. Do a practice launch and write down what the launch angle is, the initial speed. Move your sling length to 6, move your sling length to 7. So you're doing some work with variables here. And then take a little bit of time to now analyze your data and see what does increasing the sling length do to the initial speed and launch angle of that trebuchet. And then we have an experiment here where you have to set the parameters, again, the dimensions just right. And again, there's a video explanation that goes right along with that. And then indicate what your findings are in the box there. And then an analysis. And that would be the all for day 1. I'll go in with this video as well for day 2, as long as I'm up and running. Day 2, very similar stuff here. I have to first find day 2. Here it is. Day 2 has much the same, a little bit more detail, some videos of me again. You have to pay attention to the dimensions and the settings of those dimensions, of those different functions. The short arm length 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then just write down what the initial speed is in the boxes. So you're basically here, you're building 2 trebuchets. First one you do, the second one you do, and then you analyze the data. What was different about them? How did they differ? Okay, and then answer a series of questions about trebuchet 1, trebuchet 2. You'll get the idea of these questions. They're not that difficult. Give it your best shot. And this is a bonus question here. And then as we move along into that day 2 on Thursday, you'll get the gizmo ready. And again, there's a little story here that goes along. I explained that in the video about the siege of Acre and some more information you have to gather off there. There's some screenshots you'll have to use, and screenshot tool, remember, is right here. Again, the video explanation helps you with that. And then as you move along day 2, where did I put day 2 now? You'll notice that it's pretty easy as you go along here. Email me if you're stuck. Look at the videos if you're stuck. I think you'll be just fine getting this. I'm pretty excited about it. But there's a lot of extra credit opportunities at the end of this. You might have to spend a little bit more time than a normal 50-minute class, but if you have the time and you want extra points, there's going to be all kinds of where it's red here. It goes on to say this is all extra credit. You do not have to complete this if you don't want extra credit. But some students were really pumped up the last time we did this activity, and they even want to stay in from recess to keep working on it. So I thought I would give you an extension opportunity here to play around with the technology and learn something from it. And it's actually kind of fun too, because once you get into the actual launching, the idea is to be knocking down that castle wall, and you can add flames to it and fire away. So I'm going to throw a flaming ball here, but I have not found the correct parameters yet. I haven't played around with it long enough today to hit the castle. I'm going to have to do some work on that. So that's it in a nutshell. Once you get to the end of this, I mean, you can go as far as you want to, or just do a little bit of it. There's extra credit points to be gathered. Um, Check in with me at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, 1 o'clock on Thursday for Google Meets if you desire, and we'll go from there. All right. Good luck, everybody.